I mean, dude, that's the beauty of like making content, right? It's always like this type of content where it's podcast stuff. Like, of course, your end goal is that like shit ton of people actually listen to like the full episode. But then you
Correct.
also have like just like micro clips and like people that notice that. And then you also just have people who like notice you're doing the thing without ever actually like listening to even a
That's
micro
the
clip.
people from my personal life. I feel like.
But even business people, and it's
Yeah.
valuable, right? Where that's why like that type of picture of like a pre
Yeah. Yeah.
conversation thing. It's not about the substance. It's just like that little sub like seed of like marketing that says like, oh, this person's doing something about this, right? And then over time, they like some people notice things that you're like, I didn't even realize you were paying attention.
Yeah.
And then other people that like are your good friends are like, what are you up to in this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the nature of like we're so oversaturated with media that like you don't know what's breaking through or not. You can't think about it. You just have to
Hmm. I mean,
ship what you want to ship.
that's my biggest thing is even with the podcasting, like it just looks good to do, number one, but also for me, it's like a great networking tool. Like I
Totally.
just love being able to meet people, have a good conversation. That sticks with people's lives, and then they like down the line. Oh, I had a great convo with X Y Z. Let's do
For
something.
sure. And I mean,
So,
we can speak off of like us two,
oh
right?
yeah,
Like we don't know each other so well. It's like we met once while you had a gig, and then like we stayed in touch over like just like social, but like up until we like kind of decided to do the podcast. Hey, we were like, oh, let's catch up, and then you're like, oh, let's do the podcast over text,
yeah,
and then we actually
yeah.
caught up. But like we caught up because of the podcast. We would have anyways, but now we're here. Like, I was coming back to New York anyways, but like I flew back a day or two early, came out to you. Now we're
I
hanging in
appreciate it.
person. No. I'm not saying that in a way.
No, no, no. I
I'm
know.
saying the power of a podcast is like having it gets us to actually hang out for
Yeah,
2 hours over conversation, as well as then the other like kind of like ancillary communication around it. Which like that's one example of, but like that's the power of like relationship building.
and also sometimes the people I have on, I meet for the first time. Like I just have them on social media, and then that's like talking about now
Like, have you done any
is
cold outreaches where you've said
yes.
hey person, I love your work, like
So I had a guy from Australia just because I was interested in what he was doing. He automotive photographer, and I was just like, hey, like I'd love for you to do this. Some people you just gotta reach out, and I
and
just
what's
emailed
like they
them.
say no, doesn't
Yeah,
matter, they don't respond,
yeah.
doesn't matter,
Yeah, so we met, and then we just chatted for, like, a good 3 it was, like, 3 hours, and I've never met
and
this
that was
person in my life.
virtually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, it was virtually, so it kinda sucked, but, like,
No,
he wasn't
it's
gonna
still
fly
great
out.
though,
Yeah.
like it's like worthwhile. It's a little bit different experience, and like the quality can be a little bit worse. It's like I've done virtual stuff too, and it's like the latency can affect it a little bit, but it's gotten so much better, like,
Right.
connection where it's like you still can have a great
Yeah.
conversation.
I just love doing the studio stuff, but,
No, it's fun, like, from a
yeah.
relationship point of view, it deepens it, and you end up, like it's the difference between like, I'm a big believer in, like, remote work stuff, but you do miss those, like, random micro interactions that, like, you just if you're online with someone, you're gonna be on, do the thing, and get off. You're
Mhm.
not gonna be like, "Oh, let's walk into town and get a sandwich," and have a little, like, "Oh, this other thing come up that you're working on that wasn't covered in the podcast."
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, where that's possible, where you meet someone in person. It's like here, for example, like, I didn't realize you were in a studio. I didn't realize the space.
Yeah,
Seeing
yeah,
the
yeah.
space, like
I just gave you an address, I'm like, "Come here this time, show up."
no, but seeing it deepens the context of
Yeah.
like you and what you're building and the relationship, right? So like
Yes.
in person is definitely um, more advantageous, but virtually is better than zero.
It's really also, like, a numbers game too for me right now because
Yeah,
this would be episode 31. I'm
nice.
trying to get to 100, obviously, and like there's a
Congrats.
stat. Thank you. There's a stat that says I think only like 0.01% of podcasts get to like episode 100. So now it's like the milestone. Okay, I could do that. Let's just crank them out. So now, not that I'm just reaching out to anyone, but it's got to be
No,
relevant. But I'm like, oh, Mike, we caught up. We had a great chat, and like even going back to how we met for context, the audience, it was just such on a whim where I was just shooting on a gig, and You were there. You weren't even really not supposed to be there, but you
I
didn't
just
plan on
walked
being
by
there.
and heard them, and then we started talking because I remember this, like, it was probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I was just watching you shoot, and I was like, "Oh, he's got it," right? Like, you can tell when people, like, have a perspective and they have, like, taste, in my opinion, watching someone shoot versus, like, sometimes you see someone shoot and touche to anyone who's out there shooting, but it's like, oh, they're just, like, how do you say it? How do I say it? They're just like capturing something in
Capturing the
an
moment.
ordinary
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
like capturing something in a way that just like feels like it has crazy depth. So that's where we started talking. I was
Yeah.
just like, "Yo, dope shots!"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. That street, Canal Street, everything lined up for that shoot. Just the fact that it was even just a band and like the street was blocked off. Like the scene
I
was
mean,
so cool.
that's where it's at right
You
now
know,
in New York. Like New York has so much going on, but that little pocket is like
right?
it's an interesting.
We get the sun right down that street, like the whole way down, gleaming this giant like heavenly
Yeah,
rim light on all the people and the gold lighting. Everything worked out for that
dude,
shoot.
the film I'm writing centers that area. I
Nice,
don't know
that's
if I told you
awesome.
that.
No, I don't think you told me you were writing something. You didn't say what it was about or where.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's awesome.
But it's like so. Yeah, like that, that area is becoming more significant to me. So that day then stands out as like just like
Yeah,
'cause those types of like random interactions very much play into this film script. So it's
nice.
like, I mean, in general, so much creativity comes from real life experiences, right? Even if it's not exactly copied, it's like, where's your inspiration coming from is real moments. So
It's yeah, it's like even if you look at I don't know, like Interstellar, obviously it's masquerading a feeling in like this giant grand space adventure that doesn't exist, but it's about whoever wrote. I think Nolan did write that film with his
I
brother,
don't know if he
but
did.
um, that was probably from like some sort of deep seated feeling that he was resonating with.
Totally. I mean, any sort of like fantasy or science fiction has to find like human truth. It doesn't have to, but the ones that work do, right? That is the recipe of like people want like there's only so many types of stories you can tell and
Right,
it's
right,
like that actually resonate, right?
right,
And the ones that do, like my opinion, even if they're made up, even if they're imaginary worlds, come from truth.
right, right.
And I think that's an important thing to like anchor to when storytelling is like truth seeking, learning how to see that truth, learning how to see different perspectives, and then kind of like reshaping it into something that feels cool to you, right? Like it's like
Yeah,
you're the
yeah.
only
It
judge
is. Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
something. It's like you have no idea if it's going to resonate or not. And I think that's a bad metric to try to like shape into. But it's like the more like grounded one to kind of try to find is like, okay, is this true? And
Yeah.
that's relevant to you or
Yeah.
relative to you.
I think a good indicator too is like obviously make what you enjoy, but a good indicator would be can someone else relate to this feeling that I feel? Because I'm very familiar with it. By spreading this message, there must be other people that are also
Well,
familiar
that's
with
the
it.
human experience. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's kind of like cliche in ways, but if like you see advice given, and I think it's so brilliant. It's like if someone is like going through something, they're like, yeah, you could be original in your own way, but like you're not. Like there throughout human history, there's someone who has gone through it and probably written about it, and like people who you can go find that, and
Yeah.
oftentimes that's helpful to see other people's experiences and how they worked through something, how they thought about something. Not that you have to gonna copy it, but it's like then becomes the connection that shapes all of us, right?
Yeah,
Shapes
yeah.
society like it's a bigger conversation, but that's the ultimate beauty of stories, and that's why stories are important, and that's like the separator between like humans and everything other animal, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
this story and connection. So it's like, I don't know, in ways it's always like funny, like a slightly different conversation, but it's like to me like making stuff is fun. It is. It's just like it's enjoyable, it's
Mhm.
creative, it's self-fulfilling, but it also, like, has a chance to be meaningful, right? Because that's what stories are,
Right.
and it feels like it's until you start to embed in it and think about it that way, it can feel, a little bit more trivial, but,
Mm.
like, stories are the most human thing around,
Right.
right? So it's like
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about Interstellar, like, although it's a s space odyssey, it's a human story.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, the human experience is so powerful, opens you up to new doors, obviously, such as like this, even this episode. I kept in touch, like I said, with so many people from that moment, that day, that were on this podcast. I had a cinematographer, and then I had DIT digital imaging technician, who's like the secondhand guy, the cinematographer. I think I also had the owner of the tattoo shop, Mikhail of the First Class Tattoo. And I'm also trying to get the band on here too. So it's like I'm that
Yeah,
one
yeah.
event,
So
like this
you're
whole
interested
thing.
on here just talking like broad creativity.
Yes, broad like why? I want to know why. That's my
Why
thing.
what?
Why why you are in the craft and like resonate with it, and what's your story? Like, because everyone when that sort of mission came from my own journey just being so unique and like personal to myself. So I'm like, well, man, if I got into this for this reason that's like super specific, then like everyone else
And for
must
you, you're
have one.
talking filmmaking for you. But
Filmmaking,
someone else could
yes.
be music, someone else could be writing.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
still like I can still get that, because this is my baby.
What's your answer to that for yourself?
So I always felt like there was a magic to be able to like record something, like capture a moment, like I always was so fascinated with the idea that like you could do something, record it, and then like play it back like that, but that's not now. Like I know it's super like basic
No,
sounding.
it's not. Well, it's become more basic because like cameras are so ubiquitous, right? With being like
Right.
phones, but like back when like cameras and video cameras came to the world and in a consumer way, even when they came to the world,
Yeah.
they were like magic, crazy, holy shit. Then like when they became to consumer level, it was exactly like that, and I think that's why like if you study the history of like I think that's what drew a lot of people in, and I think now it's become a little bit more ubiquitous so that, like, thought is lost a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, it's wild. Like
It is. It's fucking ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like the concept. If you were to explain that to, a caveman or someone, like that's
Dude,
just
someone in, like, 1950.
yeah, right.
No,
It's
sorry, 1850. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That would right. When was the camera? Let me look it up. Actually, that's why I have the computer here.
Yeah.
When was the first camera invented?
I'd say 1900s,
1826.
1826, dang.
Wow.
But okay, but it wasn't as, like, common,
Yeah.
right? Like, even in, like, the early 1900s, you see, like, certain pictures that people pose for, and, like, you might pose for a handful of photos in your life, like,
Right.
so you're just, like, go like,
Right.
you're just excited people
Yeah.
are, like,
It's
excited by it.
more. Yeah. You're like this matters a lot now because this is probably like one of two in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always been fascinated with it, and it started at a very early age. Used to make just films with like friends. They'd come over and we'd make something. I've always was so engaged with that idea, but then also the finalized version of what that could be and the audience experience. Like even with movies that I've never made, obviously, just movies in
Not yet.
general. Yeah, not yet. But I've been so fascinated with like and passionate about a movie that I love, showing it to someone for the first time. I'm like, dope, but like you gotta watch this. Like you have to watch.
But that's human connection at its
Right.
best, right? And that's art, and that's the importance of art. Is not just the like the trivial element of like, look at how capable I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
It's like it's the connection that comes from the thing.
It's like as a creator, I see this like wrapped up thing that just can affect so many people and impact so many
And
people.
good and bad, right? Like stories at like a more commercial level are marketing, and you
Yes.
could market someone to be healthy and fit, or you could market someone to be self-destructive,
Right.
right? Like that's the same with storytelling, right?
Mhm.
So it's not inherently like a positive thing. It's just like is a thing across
Yeah.
the spectrum.
Yeah, I've always looked at it as an event, like
Yeah.
the making of, and then the lead up to when you release it. I love making like the stories like larger than life, even if there aren't, or like I make like a poster for it or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
but
just so
the
cool.
like that's anything like business, creative, it's the same type of process. You're like even if it's not until it is, right? And oftentimes if you believe it
Right.
is and you act like it is and you're already there, like it's just inevitable,
Right.
right? Whereas if you're playing small, like it's kind of harder to elevate. It's like but when you're playing big, when you're making posters for something that like
Right.
no one's really even paying attention to, like it to me, that type of person, it's just a matter of time until they make something that someone is paying attention to.
It's like you have to show people that it's
You
worth
could, and
something,
you're
you know?
going about it the right way. You're putting the right like elements in place to give yourself a chance, and that's all you can do, right?
Right,
Versus like, okay, like I'm working on this thing. It's only gonna be in this small way.
right,
Like you almost guarantee yourself that it's gonna be in a small way. But if you're like, hey, here's this thing that
yeah,
could
yeah,
be really big, and like it gives it a better chance to be that.
right.
And then it's like the next thing becomes that too.
Mhm. What is your take on, you know, as a creator, let's just preface this. For me, I've struggled a lot with the fact that now that there are so many projects out there, like there's so many people doing this, filmmaking, storytelling, at an all-time high that's ever been in the history of the world. The film industry is obviously affected by that. It's not the same path to success. There was never like a guaranteed path, but there's no like clear way anymore, or it's just harder than ever. I want to know, like, as a creator and someone who's working on a lot of cool projects currently, you know, feature films. You have Suelo Studios, obviously, and you do those short like biopics on people. What is your take on the creative space right now? What matters as a creator? You know, you look at your work. What are you trying to do that is, I don't want to say disrupting the market, because it's not. You can't really like apply like a creativity thing to like apply like just, you know, disrupting a market sort of thing, because it's creative, it's artistic, it's not like businessy, if that makes sense. What is your like, I guess, your plan or take on just the fact that everyone is now doing this? It's so much harder.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna give you a little bit of a longer answer here in a roundabout way that I
Sure.
think gets us like the right context and like gets us into an interesting conversation,
Okay.
which ultimately answers your question, right?
Sure.
But like, I mean, this is relevant. I'm 36 right now, right? Like, and this work that you're starting about is like very much, or this work that you just referenced is very much a new chapter. Like, I think I'm shipping good, cool stuff, but it's like the earliest moments of something that is new, right? So like my background is like even like in this world, like it makes sense. It makes so much sense, and I'm working on it in a way that I know it's going to like work and make even more sense. And I like always loved films, but I never like growing up. I wasn't like I'm gonna be in it. It took me like till after college a bit to like that seed started to grow. Right, like I studied accounting and finance and worked at a bank for 3 years, and then went down like a startup path, right? And then that kind of led me into creative worlds. And in
Right.
that kind of transition, I was like, the filmmaking stuff started to like materialize more. And I guess even more so than like proper filmmaking, it was just like, and I think this kind of answers your question, but like the idea of like content became more prevalent, right? Like everyone, it was needed for businesses across the board. And that was for me, like I started working on like producing video stuff for like businesses I was working on that were unrelated directly to
Right.
like filmmaking, but I was always like interested in media and interested in the social media landscape and the changing media landscape and communication stuff. And it's like I was seeing the range of like kind of more like modern storytelling to like independent creators to then like tech and the confluence of like tech business art and like what does all this mean? And again, it goes back to like the fundamental thing that we were talking about before. Like, what is the thing that connects humans across the
Right.
world in any way, whether it's one to one or one to a million? It's storytelling, right? So, like, as the world shifts more and more and more and more, and like tech stuff does accelerate, like, I believe that there's going to be more of importance on like human centric storytelling,
Right.
right? So like I guess the combination of so much of my past experiences of like understanding the importance of this stuff, my love of just like bigger like proper films, um my believer in that like they can be meaningful, my understanding of like kind of startup architecture and structure
Right.
and tech stuff and what's possible now has led me to like more directly attack like um filmmaking, storytelling, media stuff from a more direct angle. And I think like we're all can always innovate like form and structure
Right.
and like yeah, it can be the same type of story, but how you're telling it and why and where and who's involved and like what you're trying to do with it. That's where like innovation can happen. And I think, um, yeah, like it's hard to say like directly. I don't want
Right.
to say like, oh, I'm an
Right.
innovator in this way, but I
Yeah.
think I'm
Yeah.
going about things in a unique way. But it's any sort of creativity, right? Whether it is like more business sided or whether it is filmmaking stuff, just comes from a combination of other ideas and other elements that you've been exposed to. So it's like, how does someone like innovate in actual like filmmaking? They're taking stuff that other people kind of did and they're repackaging it up and trying something new. And all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, that's not really been done. There's shades of something that look familiar, but it hasn't been done in this way.
And they're also like injecting their own personal experience
Totally. But
to it.
that's remixing, right? Of different like real live lived experiences.
Right.
So it's like even we'll see. I said like I have a first draft of a feature film written,
Right.
which I plan to produce and direct, right? Like, and there'll be other people involved, of course, to bring it to life. It's a collaborative team effort, but it's like my own filmmaking experience to date is more like small crew, run and gun, shaping stories after the
Mhm.
fact. Um, and even like how I'm thinking about this which is a script and would be very much like storyboarded out and fleshed out. It's like I still want to leave a little bit of room for randomness. I still want to make it feel human in ways. So it's like my experience of how I've gone about like making stuff in the past based on circumstance and what I was working on leads itself into this like style that is different than maybe someone who came from a more like traditional big film crew set
Right.
environment.
Right.
And it's not better or worse. It's just like it's just is.
That's art. Yeah, that's the whole thing in general, right? It's
Yeah.
just everything is. So you really think it's more just that one like intersection of unique ideas to really like shape or affect the world even in a
Yeah,
work.
like if I ever do anything tangible, which I think there's a chance of that someone's like, "Oh wow, this is really innovative," right? It'll be like a combination of 2,000 different past
Right.
experiences that then like become that one thing that has become a little bit more tangible that someone else can grasp as such, right? But
Right.
it's like I don't think the goal for me is not to set out to be innovative, right? And I think that's like would be a false
Exactly.
kind of aim for anyone. It's like for me, it's like, okay, you have a certain amount of resources, you have a certain like aim and ambition, like you have this certain immediate frontier that you are personally on. That's all. You could just attack that with
Yes.
given what you have, right? So then it's like then you start to like pull things in maybe in a way that like you wouldn't have if you weren't in that exact
Well,
circumstance.
that's why I love the idea, and this is something that sort of keeps me going when I make projects. Is like your films, your projects are just a time capsule. It's like literally a description of how you felt and what your life situation was in the moment that you made it.
Totally, and it's a combination of like both that what you want to say and how you're saying it,
Right.
and then like what you could actually execute on in that moment, right? Where
Exactly.
it's like maybe even in your head you saw something that was going to be more grand and more polished, and like you just for whatever reason the elements weren't there to allow you to do that. Your own skills, the resources of
Yeah.
the collaboration that were around you, that some other circumstance of environment, who knows? But then you like look at it and you're like okay, like this is cool. This is the best I could do in this moment.
Mhm.
And it's like you go again. And then the next time you're like a little bit stronger and you have a little bit more awareness. And then hopefully you make something that's like more polished, right?
Well, I think also, and I think this applies to any sort of film, even the biggest ones. Everyone loves to shoot the highest of highs when they make a project, but it always comes down even a little bit. Even if it's like a great like outcome, it's always a little different, right? Because the real world hits. You know, you write on this paper, you're coming up with ideas in your head, and then once you start to shoot, you realize, oh man, we can't close the entire city
Yeah.
for this.
But the more you do, the more you know what's actual possible to bring to life, right? So you're like, okay, like here's a simple example. Like you've shot in this studio before for this
Right.
podcast. Like you know how it's gonna sound, you know how it's gonna look. It's kind of predictable, right? Like the exact
Yes.
conversation is like gonna vary, but the actual like base is predictable. You know that. The first time you ever did it in here, you didn't know. And then you did it and then you had this base level, right? So I think that's kind of like a simple analogy that relates to like creative
Right.
projects more broadly. Any new variable that you introduce is gonna like create unknowns, right? But
Right.
if you're working with less variables based on like your past experience, then you can get pretty close to like what's expected, I think.
Right. Do you think people are too scared of experimenting more because they think it's like they're scared of how would that's gonna take forever to perfect like a look or
Yeah.
a style,
I
you know?
think what's challenging sometimes is when something works, right? And then like especially this is one of the challenges of like it's a positive and a negative in this case, but like social media, for example.
Right.
And I think it holds across the board in like any sort of creative pursuit. But if someone has like a concept or a thing, an area of their world, a format that works, then you want to do more of that because it's like working, right? So in that regard, then you're going to be there is a, there's more risk and more cost to switching and experimenting, right? It could be better, it could be worse. That's the nature of risk. But it also then like there's risk in that you like plateau by not experimenting.
Yeah, well,
So like I think success is a double-edged sword in that way, where it's like whatever it is, hey, you're recognized for this type of art. And you're like,
right.
oh, and you see it like some of the boldest artists that are like, I'm doing something different. I'm this. I don't really care. And like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yes,
Um,
yes. I see that when I make something that I really love. I'm like, that was a great interview setup, or that was a great shot, or a film. I'm like, fuck, now I gotta top that. Now I gotta make something better.
yeah, but for
Or,
who?
you
Like
know?
who's the judge? I think it's like you have to
Exactly.
be the judge, right? So it's like that's what I think is in any sort of like to me the successful experimenters are people that they are the judge, right? Because if you're looking externally, then it's going to be easy to be like, oh, this didn't quite work. Because it's
W
like you might try something new. For example, like you might have this that you're doing and it's working and it's resonating and it has an audience that likes it and knows it. Then you try something new, it might just need a new audience to actually resonate,
Yeah.
right? So it might not be the fact that it's like not going to work or bad. It might just it might be bad and might not gonna work,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there's also other things that could be a situation at play, right? So, but if you yourself like trust that, like, yo, what I'm doing is gonna work. It works. It's meaningful. It's good. Um, sometimes you just need time to trust that. But that's the nature of artists. Like, who's saying what's right or wrong for each person? Like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
experimenting myself,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
I'm in a phase where like I think things are gonna work but it's early. Like I think I'm shipping good stuff. I think the angles I'm taking are smart. I think the structure that's being built is good. I think like over time it will work. But we're super early, right? Like if you
Right.
look at anything that's I've shipped, I've not shipped stuff that's like resonated super widely. I'm betting on this to come. So like I don't want to speak overly on like
Right.
even what it takes to hit those marks and what it takes to succeed. But I've worked closely with a number of like artists as like across different mediums and as like internal advisor, I guess basically. I've seen this stuff firsthand to speak on like some of the challenges
Yeah,
of
I feel like for me, it's more like you're saying you can't like who is it for? Obviously, I'm thinking in my head like, is this better than what I last made?
and that's all you can
But
do.
but then it's like, how do you quantify better? You know, what does that mean? It's not like sales, like where you made more money. That's better. When it comes to a film, and especially if it's like you're saying, completely out of your sort of style. Like, so you want to make something different, like a black and white piece, or you want to make a feature film versus a short film. Like, you can't just stack those two next to each other and say this one's better than that. It's
There's
just
so many
different,
different elements at place, right? Like
right?
like I have a wide spectrum of things I like and admire. Right, I like thoughtful, reflective stuff. I
Right.
also like dumb, funny stuff. Right. I think Will Ferrell to me is one of the funniest of all time. Right. Like, and I saw him. I bring that up because I saw him on a podcast once where he was being as serious as he ever is. He's still being goofy, but like he who is even if his comedy doesn't resonate with you, he's objectively an incredibly successful comedic actor, right? Like
Correct.
absolutely. And this person on the podcast was like, because he's had some flops too, a number of flops, and they're like,
Right.
the question was something in the lines of like when you're working on a film and you finish it and you like it's done and you're about to ship it, like, do you know if it's gonna be a success or not? And his response was like, "No idea." And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure that
yeah,
was,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
kidding
yeah.
a
I
little
could see
bit,
that.
but it was like he went on to elaborate, like, some of the ones that were flops, he thought were gonna be amazingly great hits. Some of the ones that were hits, he thought were gonna be flops, right?
Right.
So it's like, you don't know. You just have to make something that you feel is cool and interesting, and you're excited by it, and you're excited to work on it, and then you ship it, and then you ship it, and then it's like whatever it is, and you see like I mean, there's certain like famous examples of like art that was made for a certain reason that then was shipped and was like taken in a totally different way,
Right.
right? So it's like you don't have control. You only have control over like what you're actually doing day to day, what you're actually working on, what you're making. Everything else is a matter of like not total chance, but it's chance. And it's like I think like in life, in art, in filmmaking, it's like control what you can control, right? And it's like if you just keep making that better and like listening and not being delusional and like taking signals and feedback and like try to incorporate them to make what you can control better, then ultimately the release of something like works or it doesn't.
I think it's also, what I picked up from what you're saying is also the importance of sticking with a project, because some projects might take, like, for example, this short film that I've shot over the past year now is entering its editing phase, which is an immensely long process. But the film itself is very experimental. Like it's very against the norm. It's weird, right? In that sense. That's like this whole process has led to a lot of doubts, of course, and the entire now it's been like a year and a half of shooting this. There's been so many times where I'm like, is this just like a hot piece of garbage? Like, what am I working on? And then there's some days where I'm like, this is like gonna be the best thing ever.
Yeah,
You
and it
know?
could be both, right? And it could be
Yeah.
it's like with any sort of like I think creativity and like life and business projects, there's a similar underlying like fundamental belief I kind of share or structure, but it's like you don't know what something it like not only is like it doesn't have to always be the direct benefit from let's use this
Mm.
short film for
Yeah, yeah.
example. It's like cool, you make it. Like nothing really comes of it, right?
Right.
There's not like a grand applause. There's not like these awards won. You feel okay about
Right,
it,
right.
but not great. Like maybe through a conversation about that, you meet someone who ends up being a really, really important collaborator for something that is successful, right? Maybe like an actor that you're working with becomes a collaborator for something successful. Maybe
Right.
this doing this work of this film that you just liked wanted to do in the moment you felt like it was important to do, it brought you to some location that exposed you to some idea that changed your life in some way, right? You just don't know, but by doing things, it enables like the possibility of like other things to kind of work out. It's like the thing that can get you to the thing
Well,
sometimes.
also, don't tie it to the outcome though sometimes, right? That's important
It-
too.
it-
Like just make the thing to make the thing, finish it.
totally, and it's like that's the life of like any human. It's like you have to decide what you want to be working on in that moment, and like sometimes it's like is it the most grand, exciting thing ever? I'm not commenting
Right.
on your
Yeah, no.
film. I'm just commenting on like literally the thing that's like in front of you, and the answer might be like no, but that's like the best idea you have right now, and that's the best thing you can work on right now. And then you do that, and then like time goes by and you reevaluate,
Right.
right? So it's not just like the process is doing things, and I don't
Right.
think like there's certainly times that someone could be doing something that they themselves are like this is a waste of my time. Why am
Yeah,
I
yeah.
doing this? Then I would advocate like, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
But if it's like, no, right now, like this is what I want to be doing and what I should be doing, that's awesome. And then yeah, like then it's finishing the thing and sticking with it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's been a challenge for sure. Is just being able to stick with projects that oftentimes take a while to make because you're just so like based on your mood of like the day, you're like
Yeah.
fuck this shit
Well,
or
no, like I
something.
mean, like countering what I was just saying, there's certainly times to shift an initial idea and or
Right.
can something. Like it's not a one size fits all of like, oh, you must finish. It's like a there's a very fine line between determination and
Right.
delusion, I guess.
Because I feel like that this whole idea too harps on obviously sticking with the journey, but it applies to your journey specifically because you've kind of been in different areas of life and just being able to stick with like what you actually want to do up here.
Yeah,
Can you
and
talk about
to
that?
me,
Like,
like I alluded it a little bit before, like and although like I've worked on a lot of different projects in different areas and different forms, right? From like not knowing what I want to do out of college to like working on a
right,
bank to trying to chase like startup stuff, which I still like love that early stage business, to then like working across different industries of like from tech to fashion and art and kind of like to me, I've always it sounds like a lot of different things. I've always been executing on the same vision.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it's like trying to find the through line between different experiences, right? So like internally it's like staying with a north star of like trying to build my own ecosystem and structure, right? In the highest level
right,
way without getting it too into the details and the weeds. And it's like now it's taken form in a way that I think is the smartest I've gone about yet, in the way that makes the most sense, in the
mm-hmm,
way that's the most me, right? Because like I am a mix of like an artist and a business mind and a just curious human, right? And it's like, oh, cool. Okay, how do you structure something that
right,
kind of like helps you like there's all these different ways that can execute that can work, but the way that works
right,
best is like trying to shape something around how you personally work, right? So it's
yes,
like for me, this kind of world that I'm working on right now and the intersections that I'm crossing and like the through line that actually makes sense, which is filmmaking and storytelling, um, is just natural, but I couldn't have found it without going through the other kind of like false starts and
right.
even things that kind of worked and it's all like building blocks that ultimately become a part of a newer, clearer vision, basically.
I feel like that's all you can do, right? That's like, what is this success? It's just the thing that is most you, right? That's like all you can really accomplish is
Totally.
making something that's
And it
close.
takes time, right? Like some people can find it when they're 18 and they're like, I know
Right.
this is who I am. They can articulate it, they can go for it. They know what the steps are that are like material um to like have that vision become a reality. Some people never find it. Some people don't have the courage to act on it when they do find it. Some people find it at age 50, right? And then do it and make this life that they've always dreamed of. And even if they couldn't always see the steps and couldn't always articulate it and couldn't always execute on it. To me, like those are some of my favorite people that have like the courage to like to go for something again, to try again, to reinvent themselves at whatever age, because they and like again, everything life is chapters, right? Where it's like, okay,
Right.
you weren't like lying to yourself at age 23 or age 30. It's just like, no, now this makes perfect sense for who you are right now, for what you want to tackle and envision. And I think that's the most like courageous thing people can do, truly.
Do you think it takes a level of awareness though? Like you're saying, some people find it here, some people find it here, and then you're like, oh, but you could see the pieces along the way. That takes a level of awareness though about yourself, right?
Of course. And I think um like answering that in a way is like where how do you get awareness about yourself,
Hmm.
right? It's hard work. It's like you have to be willing to like truly audit yourself and be honest and like think about things. But I think even more so like we're in a world in ways that like everyone wants to be like busy. Busy is productive, right?
Hmm.
But you actually have to give yourself certain time to and space to think, to be able to understand, right? And I think like that's one of the more like under thought about tools and like creativity and business and life happiness, if I can comment on that even,
Hmm.
is just like slack in your day, in your life, in your week. And it doesn't mean like just like chilling,
Yeah,
but
you
it
know.
means like, okay, like there might be valuable like things that come out of taking a 2-hour walk that don't have any immediately direct results, right? But it gives yourself space to actually like sit with thoughts and sit with like kind of like environmental things and sit with questions.
Right.
Questions are like better questions bring better answers. And I think that that is like, how do you get to that place of awareness? You ask yourself questions. And how do you ask yourself questions? You have to give yourself space to be able to ask
I
the
think also
questions.
it's being you have to not be like so caught up in like the day to day. Like you have to be like, for example, if you
It's
go out and take a
both.
walk, right?
It's both.
You have to be like, I'm not gonna worry about anything right now, and that's hard. You have to shut your brain off and like just be like, this is time for me, 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 me. You know?
Yeah, but it's like, and I don't know. I'm just giving perspective of my own life, right? Like I'm not preaching anything. So even if I speak in a way that's I'm
Right.
like, oh, like we need more of this. I'm like, I'm speaking for myself, right? But like one of my favorite quotes, and this is paraphrased, but it's like related to what you said. But it's like I used to have this like 10-year plan that had all these like specific goals and ambitions and that whatever, right? And then he's like, and I realized like what makes a great life is great years, which what makes great years is great months. What makes great months is great days, right? So he's like, my new goal in life is to have a great day. So, but great day doesn't have to mean like you have to define that, and each day could be different.
Right.
Sometimes a great day could be like, yo, I'm working my ass off for 12 hours and 15 hours, and I'm doing all these things back to back to back to back. I'm working out. I'm doing the right things. Sometimes it could be, oh, I went for a nice lunch, but it's like defining that for yourself. But yeah, days are important, right? Because that's what adds up into like actual material creative output, material life output.
Are there any like specific experiences from your own life that like have shaped your sort of I don't know how to put it, like sort of you've always been creative, you've always been a creative person, but
Yes
has
and
there
no.
ever
Like
been
like
Go ahead, yeah. No,
like,
no, I wanna hear this.
like I think if you see the stuff like I'm working on and the range of stuff I'm working on and like how I can like switch my mind right now, like and even in the weeds, what I can execute, high level stuff, what I can think about. I'd say like I'm incredibly creative, but like in ways that surprises me, right? Like like I feel like I was always entrepreneurial, but not as like not as much creative. I think for me, a lot of like creativity is a muscle that like the more you work on it, the more you're surrounded by people who are like thinking about it, the more you want to be XYZ thing, the more you become of it, right?
Right,
So for me, it's been like I think my creativity has vastly increased over the last 10 years. And that's from like wanting to be more creative, reading about creativity, studying people who are creative, being around people who are creative, working on things that required creativity, right? So like I don't think I was zero creative prior, but I've certainly like leaps beyond where I was, right? So it's
right.
always like I only know myself and I see that growth. It's always like fascinating to me to see people who are just like born and could think and articulate it
Mhm.
like years earlier than me. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. Like, excuse me.
No, you're good. I already had a F-bomb probably at like 30 minutes, so all good.
um yeah, no, it's again, it's like you only know yourself, right, and your own life process fully. Um, but yeah, creative self journeys are really interesting and how they can evolve, right? Both from like what you can see, both from what you want to execute against, and both what you're like capable of executing against.
Right,
And I think sometimes even like seeing what's possible helps actually like increase like the skills required to execute on the thing.
right. So, were there any, like, specific moments you could, like, recall from your memory that have just, like that unlocked something or that changed my perspective? Because you said you weren't always creative. So,
Well, like
what
I
was
was
that
just probably
shift?
less creative, right? Like
Just less creative. Gotcha.
um I think just like for me, if we're talking like filmmaking stuff,
Yeah,
right? Like weirdly an important unlock. Like I said, I've always just loved films, but I loved like the story and the essence. Is like I didn't necessarily pay attention to all the details, and I couldn't articulate the details and the why something worked and the what and the how something worked. I wasn't studying it. I was just like enjoying. I
yeah, it's
was an
just cool.
enjoyer, a thorough
Yeah, yeah.
enjoyer. Um, and like again through like more like business angle pursuits and the world converging so much of like just these different mediums and like kind of intersecting, I became good friends with a lot of like people that I would deem to be like very talented successful creatives and like some photographers in particular. And like, I mean, in New York City, it's like there's so many talented photographers, like
Right.
incredibly talented. And it's just like, I think I started like through, I'm a human person, right? And that's even shows in my storytelling and the stuff that I'm drawn towards. And it's like, oh, you end up making friends with XYZ person. And then you start to pay attention to their world and what they're thinking about and what they're exposed to. And then you become exposed to more of that type of thing. And I think like for me, it's it's l it's less of a specific story, but it is a specific story of, like, starting to just, like 'cause, like, if you're talking visual storytelling, photographers are the best, like, because they have to tell full stories in
In one
one
image.
frame, right? So I think for me, just starting to see, like, very, very high caliber photographers more frequently than I ever had, started, training my mind into, like, "Oh, this is possible. This is good. This is" and then that increased my taste, right? Taste comes from exposure. It's like,
Right.
if you only have ever had McDonald's, it's the greatest cheeseburger you've ever had in your entire life. If you've had 200 places, then you have like some sort of like gauge barometer to like rank something against. So if you've never seen great creative work, you don't know what great means,
Right.
right? And I think that then once you start to see what greatness looks like, then you can start to stretch and like maybe come close, maybe achieve it, but at worst improve your own capabilities.
Right. And I think it also takes going back to like a willingness or an openness to like experience other work. Like I think from being in the craft more as myself as a creator now being like in the act of creating rather than just watching, I've found myself to be a lot more open to watching films that are like not really my taste or I want to understand like an artist. I want to know why you like do things, you know? That comes from just being able to say, "Hey, like I know this is what I want, like that I know my taste, but to get a palette of experienced like taste, you need to be able to see everything, not just the one thing."
Totally, and that's what's, like, so cool about filmmaking is all the different elements that go into actually communicating the story,
Right.
right? And it's like, I think if you, like, isolate certain parts, it becomes helpful, right? So and that can come from, like, certain times where you're watching something that's not your exact, like, favorite or, like, I've started doing this it's kinda weird, but I started doing this on airplanes, right? Like, that have movies.
Right.
I'll watch them with no sound. Just to, like
Okay.
'cause I don't naturally, like, I've become more visually capable. It's funny to say I'm not visually capable as someone who's, like, heavily pursuing film, but I have good taste at this point of, like,
Right.
knowing XYZ thing is, like, good and this works in this way, but, like, that's a learned skill, right? So, like, even for me, like, I'm putting major emphasis on, like, increasing that and improving that. So I've been watching films on airplane with no sound, and it's just like because then you just take in, like, the actual frame, and it's a film it's, like, oftentimes films that I've, watched and know at least the story, but then you're like, "Okay, like, this visual with no sound is what is it communicating, right?
Right.
And you by removing those variables, your mind, even just casually, I'm not like overly thinking about it. I just like it's playing, and then maybe 10 scenes you notice in a way, and you're like, oh, cool, like that was interesting, and you're not even like overly articulating it, but it's like the conscious effort of like study, I guess, which sounds crazy, but that's what it takes, I think, to ultimately like improve a craft.
It's like picking apart like the levels of it. Like even you could this might sound even more ridiculous, but close your eyes and just hear it, the
100%.
film,
No,
you
no,
know?
dude, sound is and this is something, like, I've stepped into more, right? Because like, with the pieces I shot of, like, the creative profiles of
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
got them professionally scored, and it's like, you just understand how much sound is 50% of the storytelling,
Absolutely.
right? So, like, that's not crazy at all t of just listening and, like, it's like, what is this communicating? Because then it's like then you get better at that specific portion versus, like, if you're taking in the the full everything, all the elements at once, it's too much. Dude, it's cool to listen to, score soundtracks, right? And then you're like, what is this emotion,
Yes.
like,
I
communicating to
love that.
me? Right? And it's like Yeah, it can just work in the background, but it might even be a different scene than what it's used for. But at least you're like starting to to build the muscle of even thinking about it, and then like expanding on that, having to articulate the thing is an awesome way to to grow. And I'm saying that like I'm starting to do all this
Right,
stuff, right? But I
right,
just see since I've started, I see the growth of myself.
right,
Judged by myself,
right.
I can
But that is the judge. That's you.
yeah.
You know, you are the judge of yourself, no one else, because you can only compare yourself to yourself.
Yeah,
You
like I
know?
know what I was noticing a year ago and I
Yeah.
know what I'm noticing now. And it's like once you start to focus on certain elements, the I think the rate of growth can be fast, but it's like a weird concept to try to like
Right.
isolate these elements.
I love films with like minimal dialogue too, like little shorts that people post where it's just like you're just feeling what's
Yeah.
going on, and
Mm.
you can. It's almost like dialogue explicitly tells you what's going on versus someone like if we both watched a silent film with just like sound design, we might have two different interpretations of like what the hell's going on.
Which is cool. Like
Yeah.
that's art, right? It's how something's it's like how something's received.
Yeah.
Like
No.
what's the intention of someone's made it is weirdly less important than like how is it received.
And
And
I
it can
think,
be received 1,000 different ways.
and that's going back to the reason why I love it is because it's now a thing, like an event, because you make it, you put your heart and soul into it, then it is a thing in the world. Like it's no longer you. You take it out of you and you put it out. Hey, everyone, this is a thing. And people from all across the world have different experiences and different upbringings and cultures. And then they watch this one thing you made with your ideas in it. And each one of those, people might have different interpretations because they have this background behind them, right? I love that part about it because you can. It's like a processor.
Yeah,
Like each person has a different processor of an image or a film, right? And I just that amazes me to be able
totally.
to see that because I've seen it in my own work.
S- So we're in the edit of this right now, and I guess it's fine to like talk about, but like
Sure.
within the past few weeks, I filmed a short film from Sevilla to Marrakesh. Right, it was over 6 days. Two like it was me and two other like filmmakers. They're both were on camera, so we had two cameras kind of shooting, and we had like a loose story, but we were trying to like we had the story structure basically, but it was very much like we didn't know the cities, we didn't know the places. That was part of the beauty of us
Right.
making this was like discovering and us seeing and the main character in this story ultimately, which I think um again you never know, but it has a chance to be a meaningful short.
Great. Yeah.
The main character, and this is revealed within the first minute, right, is the unseen traveler. So like it's where I'm my goal is whoever's watching it, they are them, they are the traveler,
Right.
right? So it's like I know that someone's gonna bring their own self into this, and it's like the goal is to bring them along on this experience, on this trip, and it's like like yeah, we grow and we show that growth, and we show these some fun moments of discovery and learning, and um, but it's yeah, it's like you, the viewer, are the character, and I think that's a really interesting thing to play with.
It's really just like providing someone like an avenue to discovery, like in a weird way. Like it's like, you know, watch this thing like in this portal and like just feel and process and take home with whatever you want to take home with,
Yeah, because
I
I don't want to tell you, I don't want to tell you the answers,
right, right.
but here's
You
like
lay it out.
here's some
Right.
questions.
Yeah, you like set it up for an interesting thought or a conversation
Yeah,
with
and
in
that's
front of you.
like if I mean, for me, if I can make films that do that, that's a success.
Right, and I think that's, like, going back to what is this like, that's a form of it is not the money you made on a film or something. It's like, how did you impact an individual?
And it's cool, and you might never know, right? Like
Right.
at a certain scale, you know, right? Like you'd get some inbound, and people be like, "Oh, "I love this," or you'd run into someone, they'd be like, "I'd meet you. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
this." But like now we're in a way of filmmaking. Of course, like it can still exist where comments can come, but like let's say 10,000 people watch something, maybe a handful of comments come back, but you might impact number 7,000 and they don't ever message you.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like, that's cool. You
Yeah.
don't have to know all the ways that something was like impacted someone.
Mhm.
But like hopefully it's for the better and hopefully it makes people feel something they didn't or think about something they didn't and like appreciate something they didn't. And to me that's cool.
It's like you just like, just the thought of the possibility of it affecting someone else is, like, all you really need. You don't need that, like, explicit, like, "Oh, this affected me in this way, and this is why I love it." You know? It's just like, "I did my part. I don't need the thank you. Just watch
And
it."
maybe it doesn't affect anyone, right? Like,
Yeah.
but maybe it affects you and affects the people you worked on something with, and you could say that's valuable in itself.
Right. Right. I just wanna make sure. I keep looking over
Yeah,
that it's recording still.
yeah,
Yeah? It's got the rec.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm just my view is blinded right now.
Yeah.
I'll do, like, a little slate for that.
How we doing?
Moment. We're doing no, this is great. Yeah, this is great. I think we're getting into, like, good flow right here. But even the beginning was awesome. Um, so I think also, like, going back to the fact that it can affect people, but at the same time, you can't think about the individual
No, but it
either,
goes back
right?
to what we were saying with the creative process. It's like you just have to be the judge, and it's like make something that you're proud of for whatever reason, and that you're excited by, and that you're gonna do. That's it. That's it. That's
That's
all.
all you have to do.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And then you're like of course, if you're shipping something, you want to make it as good as you can, and then you like you ship something and you know what it took to make it and you know what limitations it might have had and you're like, "Dang, that could have been better in this way, but it is what it was." And then you're like then you bring that with you the next time and you hopefully, like, figure out I don't know, that's what that's
Right,
like the
yeah, it's
fun
like you
nature
figure
of,
out.
like,
Yeah.
who knows? And it's like the right elements show up and it's like that's the funness to me of, like, the creative process, um, both like the actual process of doing the work, like the process of like self growth, and then the process of like the community that it can build over time, right? And it's
Right.
like, yeah.
You don't know, like, it's
You have
like
no
it could be
idea.
anything. It could be anything. Also, what's interesting is, like, you never know. Like, you look at a filmography of a director or someone, like, you never know, like, when number 1, their last work will be, but also when their, like, prime not, like, prime, but most true creative self really is. Like, was it in their first film? Was it in their last one? Like,
Yeah.
where was that moment? And, like, what experiences guided them to that
And who's to
version?
judge, right? Like, but also like even just from a notoriety, popularity point of view, right? It's like a filmmaker could make their first piece that kind of went unseen, then make like three more things, then make something that kind of pops. And then people go and find that
The
like
old stuff,
first
right.
thing and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing and this resonates in this way. And it's like the work actually changes weirdly with their like future success. So it's like that's one of the cool things. I mean, you were talking about it before, but that's one of the cool things with like creating and putting stuff out in the world is it is this like time capsule. So like it's like once
Right.
out there, it exists, and it can be like discovered in a more meaningful way at a future point.
But you'll see those little strings of connections between each work that, like, "Oh,
Totally.
that makes sense." Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
film that I
They were in this
watched.
state of mind. They were
Yeah.
thinking about this.
And, like, you can see the parallels because, like you're saying, one work blows up, and then you see in the earlier works that didn't get so much attention, but you could see that, oh, the style still
Well,
remains, or
I see it within myself right now. Like it's like I'm not a known filmmaker at this point. I'm not blown up. I'm in my stage of doing my first works after like reinventing into a world that makes sense. And I'm like working on a body of work of like short form stuff that I think is like culturally significant and multicultural. And then I'm working on like something that's even more related to like travel and then working on on a feature film
Mhm.
right now writing. And it's like I see like even thinking about the structure of the Sevilla to Marrakesh film that we made, right? It's like Sevilla to Marrakesh, this travel trip. There's some similarities of the feature
Mhm.
film that I'm writing about New York City, right? It's just because that's where my mind is right now. Is it the same story? No. Could you put them next to each other and be like, oh, like this person is like both these works are happening within the same time frame for this person? Yes.
Right. Yeah. But that takes, like, That takes time, though. You think,
I don't
right?
know if anyone else would recognize that without me saying that. So
Yeah. Right.
maybe we cut that. No, no.
Right. I could do the slate here.
Yeah, like it is interesting,
It
right? Of
is.
like I see it
Yeah.
like, and it's not intentional. It's just like, okay, you're working on this one project, and then in parallel you're working on other stuff, and then it's like, of course it's gonna carry some familiar elements.
Right.
It would be weird if it like didn't,
Right.
and it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see how like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what of those elements
Right.
kind of
Right.
continue to take shape and what evolves.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And something also that I'm interested in talking about is like the fact that, at least for me as a creator, I always want to know like other people's stories and thought processes. And some people who I know in my life aren't obviously like in the industry, but I just know they have some great ideas. And you think it takes certain people like unlocking that for them to be able to like get them to think or something like that, you know?
I think humans are creative
Hmm.
broadly, right?
Yeah.
Like you asked if I was creative before, and I said not as much as I am
Right.
today, but like yeah, I was creative, right? And I didn't always harness it in like a way that like visually looked creative, but like how I lived, how I moved, how I thought was creative. You rewind to anyone at like age 3, near anyone, they're doing creative things, right? So some of that gets like kind of contained by like just trying to be more mature, fit into the world in a way that is easily defined. So it's like creativity by nature oftentimes is like a little bit more abstract, a little bit harder to
Hmm.
quantify, a little bit um more unique, which doesn't always like fit the
Right.
norms, right? And it's not saying that the norms can't be, but I think that's a lot of people kind of like s- not suppress, but like lessen their like creative desires. So yeah, like I do
Hmm.
think like people can be like sparked back into a past
Right.
creative um kind of stuff. I've seen super non-creative people be creative,
Yeah.
right? So like I firmly believe that everyone is.
And and you're like, "Ah, I love that. Like, make more of whatever you're onto, you know?
Maybe. I'm not like it's like if they want to,
Yeah.
if it excites them, if someone's like not doing creative things and then all of a sudden they're on a date and they end up like they're like, okay, I guess I'll
Yeah.
make this pot. And then you just see their face, their energy like light up. I'd be like, yeah, you should do more of that thing. Right.
Yeah.
But it's more of like what actually resonates, my take.
I think that also, like, this just sparked mad because you said we were saying, like, a breakup or something like that. The fact of, like, when I make something, sometimes it's like a coping mechanism, like a even like a poem or
Do you
if
write poems?
ideas. Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
On, like, life experiences that I feel very profoundly about emotionally.
Yeah.
I feel like the way to get it on get it out of me is just to write it down and, like, look at it, and now, like, it gives me a relief, you know, because now it's not bottled up, right?
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know what you're doing or not doing with that stuff, but, like, not everything has to be, like, made to be shared
Right.
either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, just like, some of my favorite artists or friends are, like, amateur in their pursuits. They're not trying to monetize it, that's what I mean by amateur, and they just love the thing, and they're always tinkering, they're always doing crafts, and it just lights them up, right? And I think that's one of the more, like, awesome things to see, with humans is just that desire to, like, create things for no other reason than just
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. That also harps on the fact of, like, you know, everyone in the industry wants to be, like, the best, the greatest, one of the greats, but it's like, why don't you just make stuff just to make stuff and, like,
Yeah.
not you don't even have to do it
Well, it's
full
hard.
time.
Like I agree, and I think there's actually a superpower in that, and I think that's actually a weird way to ultimately achieve success. But the challenge is with like when you're trying to make money on something, right? That's where the
Yes.
pressure comes. Of course, there becomes an ego thing too of like I want to be um, received by the world in this way. But it's like if someone is trying to like professionally monetize their creativity, then there becomes this pressure to actually succeed because it is dependent on like
Yeah,
like their
budgeting.
lives, like
Yeah.
stability is dependent on that level of success, right? So there's more factors involved, but yeah, it's interesting where if someone is an amateur in the sense of they're not putting their like financial pressure or their professional identity against something, then they can just make it because they
Yeah.
makes them happy. And sometimes the professional can lose that.
Yeah, it's, like, hard to balance that because I know there are certain directors that can still, like, make like, they get hired because of their vision and their style, but a lot of times I feel like a lot of creators that I work with, they will not suppress, but just change it because they're like, "Nah, the client wouldn't want that." And obviously, if you're doing, like, a client project, that's totally understandable, but, in the grander scheme of things, they try to position their work in a way that they think will, you know, become monetary gains in the future,
Yeah.
because people like this, so we gotta keep doing this,
Yeah.
or, like, people love this shot. It's like
But it's like, what does that
it's
what does that lead to, right? And I think that's where some people could be a little bit more short-sighted, and it's not bad because it can work, right? And it can get
right.
a book of business and it can get a successful life. But like the question is always like, okay, why are you taking on what you're taking on and what are you trying to like achieve from that? And the answer could just be like, I'm just trying to get paid some money, right? That's
Yeah,
totally fair.
yeah.
And like then if someone is like trying to play into a bigger vision, maybe like doing something this way always is not the right strategy. But again, it's super dependent. But I think like the question that is not asked enough is like, why are you doing the thing? Right?
Yes.
Because what and then the answer that honestly, and
And, like, even if it is for the money, like, that's fine, like,
no,
if
no, of
that's what
course,
you wanna do,
I'm just
right?
saying answer that honestly,
Yeah.
and then do it for that reason,
Yeah,
right?
right?
Which there's nothing wrong with that in any way. It's just like someone could fool themselves into being like, okay, here's this like more like gimmicky social shot that like
Right, right.
works, and it is getting short term clients, but they're trying to be some like known filmmaker for this other style. Those don't necessarily like align. Not
That's
s-
me right over here. That's literally you're describing me
no,
right
but and it's a
now.
hard balance, right?
Yeah.
Of yeah.
It's hard because it's like, okay, I gotta close, like, clients and make money while I do this other stuff. So, like, my style has to, like, warp during these client shoots.
Dude, I mean, my own capabilities and my own eye have gotten a lot better, and I think that that will only like happen. I've
Right.
made so much like just like mess around work in my life. I was just being funny, and I just liked like recording things and like bad stuff, and like it's whatever. Like it doesn't matter. I think there's fun like growth of like just creative process. Um, and even now, like I still like although I can have a better eye of like what is good and what's possible. I still like bad things sometimes because it just like serves a purpose of like, no, this was 2 seconds. I'm just not trying to communicate some grand thing. I'm trying to communicate something funny, right? So I don't ultimately believe that like someone's going to be judged by their like this like a client shot that they're trying to be
Right.
some like amazing DP and they are award winning DP in the future. Like, yeah, it might come up. Oh, this person used this, but who cares, right?
Right.
It's like yeah, you did the thing for the reason in that moment.
Well, I think everything can teach you something, right? Even if it's like a small client shoot, like you could take away, like if you have the right awareness. Going back to awareness, you can take away anything valuable from a shoot that you do that maybe you didn't enjoy or something.
Of
Like
course, and it's like for that like format, it works. It can work, right? Whereas like right now, I'm trying to play with like more cinematic short form stuff that I know is not like the most like naturally designed social media stuff. I think like if you ship enough of you start to like train an audience to like care and pay attention to the more like cinematic style. But it's not the fastest way to get, like, growth, right? So it's like, yeah, if you're a client that's selling a certain product, like, you don't care how something is cinematically shot. You want it to actually, like, resonate in a way that, like, moves product. So it's
yes,
like, yeah, you have a client shoot, like, you're gonna shoot that different than you're gonna shoot a short film,
Correct.
naturally.
Yes. Yeah. But that's like it's hard. It's definitely a challenge because like not that I'm at the point where I'm like I hate doing client work because obviously you have to. Like you have to. There are some client jobs that are like great and that you get to be creative and fun with. But a lot of it's just like, especially if it's like social media, I'm like, I just don't even want to do this. Like I'm so like honed in on wanting to do all those little creative pieces that hopefully parlay into something bigger with
Yeah.
bigger brands. But I'm just in that mindset of like, you know, I don't have much to lose right now. Why don't I just make as much creative shit as
Totally. It's
possible?
what we were talking about before, where it's like the thing, like yes, that is the answer, because it's like you never know what unlocks from that stuff, right? So as long as you're like, the direction that you want, you're taking the actions that ultimately bring you into the direction that you want. It's like the intermediary, you still have to be like staying alive and like operating and like doing stuff that might not be the most ideal ever, but it's still in the process of like um weirdly getting you closer. And it's like like life is random and there's so much like spontaneity that happens. And
Right.
it's like you go to like a client shoot that you're not like super pumped about, like when you show up, and all of a sudden that person becomes your great friend, and then they connect you to someone, like who knows, right? Like a million different things that can happen. It's just like, no, it's cool, man. You're doing things, you're making stuff happen in a way that is already meaningful, right? It will only grow to more aligned things that you want, in my opinion.
I've had like what you're talking about, how experiences unlock things, and maybe it's not experiences that you genuinely wanted to do, but you went and you followed through and you went on them. I've had multiple cases of that working in my favor, and like people meeting and even just like followers or social media posts that like do well on a shoot that maybe you didn't want to do, or just something. It's like so important to show up.
But it's beyond even showing up, right? It's like it's showing up and doing a good job with a good attitude, and like not like like you're in that moment. This is what you're doing. So like you give it your best,
Right.
right? Versus like bringing the energy of like, oh, this is a waste of my time. I don't want to be here. Like
Yeah. Like
that's
if you're
not gonna.
doing it, just do it. Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
believe.
So going back to sort of like, you know, new experiences unlocking certain things. Like, what was the journey to Swello Studios then? Like, can you talk about like leading up to like wanting to
Yeah,
officially do it, and then like just kind of saying, "Fuck it, let's do it, let's go."
yeah. So I guess like 2.5 years ago at this point, I was s- like working on a business with a business partner who's an artist, and we had like a creative ecosystem where we are getting into some pretty cool projects. And we were roommates too. We had a live work art studio, and we are still close friends. And it was like just like we weren't fully aligned on what our vision was going forward and what we wanted to build and how we would get there, right? And where we wanted our own personal lives to be. And so it just made sense to like unwind that, basically, right? So it's like
Hmm.
any sort of change, it's close one door, open another, like in the
Yeah.
cliche way. It's like just like you once something ends, a new thing has to start, right? And for me, like that was my second I've always just been working on like entrepreneurial
Great.
projects where like certain things that materialized into some success, a lot of things that did not, right? And that's the nature of like my own life experimentation as like a business professional, right? And so like, I mean, this is like 10 years of just always like, all right, trying to facilitate, trying to make something happen, trying to make something work. So when this ended, this most recent thing 2.5 years ago, my mind was like instantly like, okay, what's next? Like again, like let's figure it out. And through like other previous kind of chapters and experiences, and like what I was explaining before, like I just like very much just understood the importance of the media landscape and the power of that in creating anything. And it's like stories move the world, and stories are the gasoline that make opportunities possible, right? And it's like I've worked on a bunch of like smaller production stuff, and I always just loved it. Like it was a
Yeah.
combination of like like understanding the power of it, and then like the work that I had done, just like that's the work that always like lit me up. So I was like just reshaping um ideas in my mind, right? So my I was just going through a lot of change, I guess, in short. And um I change periods, hard periods, you're like
Yeah.
you just make decisions that you sometimes wouldn't have without some sort of like spur in that moment. So something that I it was a seed that this is kinda how my mind works. I get these, like, little seeds of, like, ideas and things grow over time into different kind of
Variance.
vegetation that is
Yeah.
trimmed and shaped, and that's, like, the garden of my own life,
Right.
right? So, like, talking about, like, media stuff and storytelling stuff and filmmaking stuff, and another side thing that's related was, like, I always kinda wanted to slow travel and, like, be like, New York weirdly is easy for me, right? Like, I'm from 30 minutes outside the city. I lived in the city most of my life, right? Like, I knew the city up and down layer wise. I never like I went to college other places, but like I never pushed myself in a travel way or living somewhere else where it was like my family wasn't here. I didn't know a billion people, like yada yada yada. So I was like pulled to like travel. I didn't know exactly why or exactly where. And so it's like unwound a business, no apartment, no like wife or
Mhm.
kids, like not unlimited money, but just enough to like go like travel a little bit, right? And I was like, if not now, when? Right. So I ended up going to Mexico City on my as my first stop, like of a whim basically of like heard a couple like little nuggets of it being interesting and cool. And I was like, oh, it feels like a good place to start, right? Is like easy time zone to the US. Like I'll go there for I was before Christmas. I was like gonna go there for 2 weeks, come back for Christmas to see my family, and then like reevaluate, right? And then I went down there, I was like, quickly, it's like, holy shit, like things are
Mhm.
happening here. Like the creative energy is just like palpable. And I went back, not like with any sort of expectations or anything, just like, let me go a little deeper in this city, in this place. And at the same time, like I was like thinking about travel more broadly, right? And I was like shaping then like on paper, like this idea of like a travel media company. I was like messing around because this is when I'm like rebuilding. I don't. It's like on paper, but then you just put things in action for
Right.
no other reason than just like let me do the thing, right? And that kind of answers questions. So I was like shaping this like travel media idea that I thought was interesting. I still do. And then I was like filming this like fashion street interview show, just like to mess around. It was like working with someone who was like a creative collaborator friend, and we're like, oh, let's just make
Mhm.
this thing and see what happens, right? So like the short of that is like, yeah, it was cool. We filmed some things, and it was like we both kind of had like other um projects happening, and we kinda
Right.
lost momentum on that. But because of, like, I was, like, hyper aware of, like, where fashion weeks are happening around the world because I wanted to travel, I was, like, happened to be going back to Mexico City and, like, Fashion Week was happening. I was, like, "Let me just, like, film something," because whatever, it's, like, a portfolio piece of, like, I wanted to make more things.
Right.
Um, I never produced anything outside of, like, New York or LA, Miami. It was just a push my boundaries type pursuit,
Right.
right? And I was like, "Oh, we'll get like a minute sizzle reel, get some of the energy. Cool." Like that's what it would be. And so meanwhile, I have all these other ideas like circulating, and I find a like someone who can help film, find like another person who like is a friend who could help with some of the access facilitation. But we still didn't really have like this is I was going back to Mexico City, Fashion Week was happening. Like, let's make something. And this kind of turned into a whirlwind of a week where we are getting like crazy access that was totally unexpected, like full on like media access into Fashion Week with nothing, like no brand, no like major vision of like where things were living. We're just filming, right? With like the expectation that we would do something with this
Mhm.
footage. And so this was kind of the beginning of what is now Suelo, right? Where it's just like, how did it come to be? Like, listen to my winding story that I'm telling, right? It's not as straightforward. It's just like you're doing things for various reasons that then bring insights into other things. So,
Right.
like, filmed all this stuff in Mexico City, and it just solidified my belief of, like, stuff's happening here.
And this is possible.
Yeah, because I was hearing I was hearing these stories of, like, not just, like, of Mexico City over the last 50 years, right? And it's like I just saw it, right? I see it right now of it's, like, super having its moment on this, like, international scale. Um, like, culture across, like, food and art and hospitality
Right.
and film and, like, fashion and name a creative music, name more creative, like, sub things, there it's happening at a very high level there. So, like, I took some time after, like, filming this Fashion Week stuff, and I was like, put some more thought and structure into actually an intention, I guess, into, like, what types of things I wanted to shoot in general, like, how that looks, what that could become, and then, I guess it was last June, kind of through even other work, found, like, a good production crew that I work closely with in Mexico City, and we started making more things that were, like, to the intention level that I kind of believed in, and now it's like, this is the base level of, like, these, like, human profiles are the base level of what I believe to be, a future, like, culturally relevant, like, global film studio,
Mm.
which sounds crazy to say, but it's like it's I see, like, a new, um kind of world structure of how things can be, right? Where it's like heavily globalized, but like hyper local, and there's like creative talent everywhere around the world, and it's like leaning into Mexico City early, heavy, like can kind of unlock the
Right.
world in ways. So
What drew you to fashion to begin with? Like, what is it, like an art
random,
form?
dude. My life is like both intentional and random at the same time. Like I certainly like move with intention,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
I'm open to like randomness. I worked at a bank at a school. If you met me in that era, like you'd be like, no way in any
Like
world does
fashion.
this guy gravitate towards something fashion.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like an early collaborator that I started working on stuff with, he was like working on a podcast company basically that was like anchored in like fashion and technology. And that kind of exposed me to a lot of like different people in that world, and then ended up, through that meeting someone who had, like, a fashion brand with, like, a tech angle to it that I ended up, like, working with. And it's just like one thing leads to another, and then it's like, okay, consulting client that's, like, a fashion brand, and then it's just like I was always even as a non-fashion person traditionally, I was always just intrigued by, like, expression that came from fashion, right? And that anyone, every single human, no matter what their interest is, participates. If you're a nudist to
Yeah.
someone who's like the ultimate fashionista, you participate. Whether you're intentionally communicating what you're saying or subconsciously communicating what you're saying, you're
There's always something there.
yes.
Yeah.
And like that is the essence of even like how I see like filmmaking and storytelling. It's like this scale of humans, right? And it's like I think it's weirdly like the same thing that draws me to like filmmaking is like human storytelling at the core essence of like who is someone, right? And
Right.
I think that's what like drew me into that world at all. And then it was just like but like randomness, I wasn't like chasing it. It was just like the things were
Mhm.
showing up, and then once you like I right now, like across all these like creative mediums, there's so much intersection, right? So like
Right.
I can silo them out mentally of like, oh, this person is this industry, this person's this industry, but it's like that medley, that mix is what makes it interesting. And it's like within a city, within the world, and it's like this movement and collision of ideas. And that's kind of like the it sounds bold to say, but that's like I'm trying to like live in that wave, right? Where all these things are like moving around me and I can see kind of the structure and capture that and tell those stories in a way that like not being at that like intersection of all of that, you're not seeing those culturally like relevant shifts, I guess.
So when you interview these sort of artists, how do you number one get the artists that you want to interview, but like how do you reach out to them? But how do you know they exist? Like, how are you doing like a lot of research online to see who you want?
Like my like the stuff that we've interviewed, people that we've interviewed so far. So even after the Fashion Week, we've done 7 profile
Yeah.
pieces that are good, all based in Mexico City, right? And it's groundwork, and it's like actually all of them came from relationships, people I know. Like again, it's like when you're building something new, you have to get people to buy in and trust for a reason that is not like, oh, I'm gonna get you this crazy distribution.
Right.
It's like the first person, like after the Fashion Week stuff, again, which was what it was like really fun. We captured some good stuff. We made a meaningful, like short form, like poetic essay basically out of it. Took some reshooting to kind of get it to a level that we like needed after like thinking through of like, okay, what does this brand actually want to be like
Mhm.
what level does this need to be at execution wise? Cool. Okay, then it was like I wanted to start profiling people in a way that was um very human, right? And like this becomes the base level like storytelling module of stuff that can grow into more complex versions, covering industries, covering like narrative stuff, covering longer form stuff, mixed formats, different story focuses and subjects. It's like the simplest is like one person,
Mhm.
right? Like, because it's just a more controlled environment. It's a simpler story because you're trying to tell the essence of that person. So, like, that was like mentally, it's like, okay, we'll start here, right? For various reasons. Artists, creative people are interesting. And I think that there's like a cool way to try to like carve out the essence of who they are without overly sharing their story of like, this is this person and this is what they've done and this is his biography. It's like, no, who are they and how do they feel? Right. And it just comes from like you need one person to say yes, so that because you don't have anything to even show them. You're like, hey, trust that I can execute on this, that it'll be worth your time. Because even people who are not like global superstars, like they care about their image and their persona and
Right.
how they're portrayed, right? So there's some sensitivity around that. And, I just spent in this case, I just spent enough time in Mexico City where, like, I had some relationships and knew people that were doing interesting stuff, and, like, the first person we did was this guy, Josefo, who's a musician and producer, and, the first night I met him, he was, DJing, and he was a friend of a friend, so, like, we were going together, like, and I've been in that world. I've seen people move as DJs in the show and when they're performing actually. And I was just like he was really good, but it's also just really kind to like the staff and um like a taco person and like a random patron who like hit, most people would not have been as kind in this situation. It was just a number of
Yeah.
these like micro moments where I was like, this guy's good, and like he's also like accomplished and playing a proper like cool circuit of places and like I don't know, but it was the kindness element that really kind of sparked me as like a interest to want to profile him. And so I was like thinking about like who would be a good first, like, proof of
Right.
concept for this, and I hit him up, and I was like, "Hey, we're doing this new thing, like, I would love to profile you," right? And he's like, "Oh, let's meet and talk about it," and I shared a vision, and I was honest, I didn't try to overflate of, like, what we were as a brand and what we could deliver. It was like, "Hey, we're gonna make a very, like, thoughtful piece about you," right? And then we got that one edited, and then used that to then show the other 6, like,
Mhm.
"Hey, this is what we're gonna do," right? And, it's just done with care and an intention, and I think people, like, are honored to be profiled in that way, and not everyone's gonna say yes, and not everything's gonna work out, but, like, if you're thoughtful about storytelling within a subject, like, I think it's a cool gift, and it's obviously collaborative. It's both I'm super appreciative of, like, all the people who volunteered for this early wave because it's like, I think this is gonna become something meaningful and something that's gonna be cool for them to be like, "Yo, I was in the first ever, like, thing
Right.
of this."
Right.
But maybe not. Maybe it just lives as, like, a good piece, and that's what it is, and,
Mhm.
it's still, I think, make it worthwhile for people.
So for when you're doing these pieces, do you have to like balance, client work that brings in like budget to be able to do the profiles, or how is that set up currently? Are there any struggles with that?
Yeah, I I mean, that's the ultimate, like, plan, right?
Right.
Is like this machine that becomes self-sustaining and works from a business perspective, right? And
Right.
it's like that can come in multiple ways, and I think that's what's interesting about the structure that I'm thinking about. Weirdly, like again, I'm just like I'm proving myself as a capable filmmaker and storyteller. So like, although I think that those will come, even though I'm not like chasing that, like I'm not chasing the commercial work,
Mhm.
and but I think it will come, right? And yeah, that's in the stage I'm in right now is getting that machine working. So it's like,
Mhm.
um, yeah, fortunately, I've been able to just like kind of self finance this early like proof of concept phase that then like
Right.
gets the machine turning,
Right.
right? Which then comes from like client work, or you do screenings of things in ways that like brands care about, and then they sponsor it, and it's like thinking about it more from a media brand business, and with production being like a smaller part of it versus like production being the part of it.
What do you think has been like the biggest sort of hurdle that you've had to jump over in like this early journey?
I mean, it's still like I'm really proud of what we've shipped and what we've made, right? It's the best stuff I've made to date. And
Mhm.
it's like I've seen my own growth and improvement, and it's something that I would like show like these pieces I would show anyone confidently and be like, this is the work, right?
Right.
But it's like anything, there's just so many elements that go into, like, building something new. So it's like, we still are unknown, we don't have distribution, we are making good stuff, but it's like, it's that early phase of just, like, all these moving pieces trying to get something to work from a creative logistics side, right, of, like, finding the right flow, finding the right team, finding what are you even trying to execute on, finding what's that process, like, honing that, um, like, trying to then level up of like, okay, here's these like what's next? What like creatively, like
Right.
you start to think like, okay, like this is good. This can always work. There will always be these, but it's like it's not just this, right? So it's like the design of that whole kind of like creative organism. And then you have like the obviously like from a brand marketing distribution perspective, you have to figure that out, which like we're super early in that. We just
Right.
started shipping stuff 3 weeks ago. So it's like everything's just it's just a time process of like sequencing, I guess, like in a business sense is like certain things have to come first and you like can't rush the thing.
Yeah.
And it's like you just have to like again, just continuing and I have a specific answer to what you're saying. Yeah, like getting the business side working is like where we're at now and very, very early in that phase. And the hardest thing is just trusting the process that it's gonna work because
Right.
it's in like this crazy like uncertain phase right now, and it's I've made a big bet on myself right here. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Like this is gonna work, and this is interesting, and this is why, and it's thoughtful, and there's reasons behind it. But is it a sure thing?
Nothing
No,
is though.
no.
Right.
So, like, the hardest thing is just trusting that, and then, like, the time that comes with, like, okay, you ship something, like, the first thing we shipped, it's like it's idiotic in ways to even, like, have this thought, but, like, we had in this first piece, we had it was a challenging this was the fashion piece I ended up making, so
Okay.
it was, like, shot in a way of just, like, let's just shoot. Things are showing up. Cool. And it was like, just like, not, it was a, we got some really good stuff, but it was at the same time, it was also like a duct tape production in this, like, we weren't
Like
like,
guerrilla filmmaking almost like,
dude,
yeah.
beyond so you only can get to a certain level when you're filming with not even knowing like why you're filming something.
Right,
It's
right,
like
right.
the camera was just our access point into getting into awesome conversations and situations. Worked. And we got some like really good stuff, and we're like, okay, like what do you do with it, right?
Mhm.
And the initial like, dude, it was like again like I can't. This story in detail is very like like funny, but like we didn't have any access to Fashion Week in Mexico City, right? And we're filming this piece on Fashion Week, and like Mexico City Fashion Week happens within um like like the Javits Center equivalent, like a convention center, basically. Like if you're not in that, you're not getting the energy. So you like actually need access.
Mm.
Dude, as luck has it, the guy who I hired to be like the camera operator, who was like a model filmmaker, or sorry, he was a model actor. Like he's self-taught kind of behind the camera. He happened to know the guy at the front that was like running PR, and we got bracelets of like media bracelets for the whole week. That's how like this
Oh
like
wow.
started basically. And then we're like meeting people filming, and like because of just I guess our energy around the room, like people, I think people thought we were like a bigger production than we actually were. Like there was like whispers like, "Oh, they're shooting for Vogue," like that level of
Yeah.
like stuff. And meanwhile, it's like we're just
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
shooting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but then like people started being like, "Okay, like come to my house or my studio. Let's do a longer form conversation." And we're just like, "Yeah, cool." So we ended up getting like, and then we started seeking some because we're like, okay, we're like probably a little like out above our skis a little bit, like just
Right.
like yeah, like let's just
Yeah.
get all this stuff. This is working. We're making this documentary on like the fashion industry, which is like not wrong, but it's like a little bit aggressive based on what actually like the pre-production which was zero and
Right.
like so all this stuff we were getting these long form interviews, mix of like guerrilla filmmaking, mix of Spanish and English, right? My Spanish is still not great
Hmm.
at all. Learning, estoy aprendiendo. Um, but
My sister can do fluent Spanish. I don't know how she can do it.
yeah,
It's
good for
crazy.
her.
Yeah.
Um, but so then like I'm looking at all this footage after the fact, and we have to do something with it, right? And I'm like, and because we got some really great people interviewed, so like you can't just like talk about losing trust as if you just like move in that way and then you do nothing
Yeah. Yeah.
with it. You're like, okay, like you can't kind of build momentum within that like ecosystem within that world if you're gonna like come and film something and then like not actually honor the subjects that you filmed with, right? So like I was watching it all, and the initial plan was to like release all the conversations as like this would be where it's like a full conversation, right? And we still might at some point, but it just felt like it was like with no audience, with like okay footage. It just felt like that wasn't the smartest thing to do. So it's like, okay, I'll just condense it into like one great piece that was like both Spanish and English, 9 different voices ultimately. And it's a piece that I think I'm really like I am proud of it. It's good, and we put a lot of effort and work into it. And it's one of those pieces that like has some people in it with distribution and notoriety within that industry and space that like if it started to like get shared, it could like even as the first piece, you're like you have this hope of like maybe it can
Right.
get great reach. And the reality was it just didn't hit that way, which is more likely than not, right? It just like was received. The people who saw it and were in it, they're like, nice, it's great, like, but it didn't like captivate momentum and energy of like the industry, which was you're like you hold out this hope, and then it's like next up, you
Yeah.
just ship again, next piece, right? And it's like you never know what's I told that long story basically to just talk about distribution and hope of like when you're starting like a young project, a young brand, a young new career basically as this like storyteller filmmaker, like yeah, you can do things that give yourself a chance to hit early. But like we've been shipping stuff for 3 weeks, right? Like you can't be like um you can hold hope, but also you have to be realistic of just like,
And that's
okay.
short term 3 weeks. You know,
No, of
that's like
course it's
yeah.
nothing,
Yeah.
right? So it's like but again, this started a year ago, like last October we filmed our first stuff. It was taking shape in my mind 8 months prior. Like so it's
Right.
just like all these steps. So now we're basically like again, I was saying like when did this start? Like it's like, oh, 2.5 years ago. I was like unwinding this
Yeah.
thing, figuring out what's next, trying to rebuild. Like then things live on paper. Then things are like live in the world, but like in the world to yourself, right? And you don't even know what they are. Then you're like filming the next phase. And then you just like now 2 years later, like we're just now I'm back at like the beginning.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, I see the next 3 months, 6 months, year loosely, but it's like that's the type of patience that's required, and that's like the I'd say where the most difficulty comes is just like trusting that patience and that process and like hit the actual marks and hit the order where something has a chance to be successful.
Right, and it's like that chance comes from putting it in front of the right people, right? Like you have to wait almost for that, or not wait, but you have to make the
Not even putting it in
conscious.
right front of the right people, but just like doing the right things. Like things take time, right? Like we're like, you're talking about the short film that you're editing that's taking a
Year and a
year that
half.
you're still sitting through, right? Like that's just the reality of creative work. And it can be frustrating at times, but it's like, okay, anything you rush, you're not taking your time because you're just like waiting on it. You're taking your time because it's like that's the time that it actually takes to like
Yeah,
for whatever reasons the different elements of the process, right? So
yeah. Well, I have a unique scenario in that the film didn't start how it is now. Like it evolved over the course of shooting. So
yeah,
we thought bigger and bigger and bigger, which then extended it.
of
But that's what
course.
the story was meant to be. It told me what it was meant to be.
And that's what you have to trust, right? And then other times where it's like, okay, like I still have a lot of work to do on this film script, right? Which is the
Right.
biggest project I have, like that I'm pushing towards. That's tangibly like, hey, this man, if things go well, like I've been writing this for a year. It's not finished where I'm shipping it around, but it's like close. Within the next couple months, it'll be like at a place where I'm like finally like sharing it. Then if things go well from there, like 2 years from now, we're like filming. Like that's just a crazy timeline.
Right.
In like and that's if things go well. It's a it to and then by the time this is released, it's probably like a 4 or 5 year from like inception to like get it going. But that's just like the reality of this type of like creative pursuits is like sitting with something for such a long period of time and both continuing to push it forward and trust that it's going to work and trust that it's worth your time
Yeah.
and trust that like all these other things and then things still have to like materialize around you to like give yourself a chance.
But also like going back to the trusting the project telling you what it's supposed like it can morph and you just have to
Of
trust like
course.
this is the direction it's going,
Yeah.
and that takes time, and then you realize, oh shit, like this short film script's actually a feature and we have to write more and we're
Yeah.
not going to be able to shoot this because I'm so used to like the small productions and all the small little things that are pretty quick to make,
Yeah.
like a couple months at most. Now it's like, man, if I like write this, I'm not going to make this till like 2028 or
Yeah.
something,
I mean, dude, I started writing this film script because I'm always like intrigued by like constraints with creativity,
Right.
right? Like, I think a lot of great ideas come out of that. And I was like, where we met in the area of New York City, I was like subletting there for a month.
Right.
I was like, man, a whole movie could exist here. I was like, you can make a movie here for 10K. And like, I love the idea of like these like micro budgets and trying to do something great and meaningful. And because then you really have to focus on the story. It's like you can't
Right.
focus on like the elements around that like
The lighting and everything, like
no. So I started it with that in mind, right? And then as it kind of took shape on paper, I had to do it justice. And it's like, okay, it's a it's a better story than this, but to tell the story, it's gonna cost a lot more,
right.
but it's still like will be a reasonable budget relative to something else because I started from this constraint, right? But and even in this project already, I let it become what it needed to become. But
Right.
then, like for me, like I have this type of project that is like a way longer term project, then I have to have like shorter term stuff to give myself momentum and energy. And
Right.
that's kind of like the Suelo side of things, like is this faster hitting stuff. It's cinematically designed, but it's like, and we're gonna do screenings of these types of pieces, but it's also built for social, right? So it's like then you can build momentum off of like this type of storytelling of the shorter form stuff while you're also like working on longer form stuff. They feed each other. That's my thinking at least.
It's like, yeah, supplemental. It's like feeding, the machine still. You're
Mhm.
not like fully
And
off the
and
grid.
both ways, right? Where it's like, okay, like me working through this like script and really being thoughtful about it and like then you start to like study films that you're watching more and study scenes and really like care, right? Then you become better at the craft of like the short form stuff. And then like doing the actual execution of filming short form stuff and getting it edited and shipping it. Then you and like even if you're working with like subjects as their own self, like you're still like directing and you're getting creative
Right.
reps in over there. And then that helps like, okay, then you're back to writing. Then you shape a scene differently because you understand what works. Right. So right now I'm in this process of like where like both the short form and the long form stuff is starting to feed each other, and it's early in the process, but that's like kind of the engine and machine I'm building.
So you think there's a benefit to taking on like different styles of work because it'll just all like inspire the other piece, you
Of
know?
course, right?
Right.
Like again, the kind of like the slate of projects I'm working on. Like one of them is this short film that we filmed from Sevilla to Marrakesh. Still we move, um, like out in the wild in countries and cultures and cities that you don't know. That brings a whole new level of skill set that then you can apply back to like
Right.
other worlds. So it's like for me that was like, although I think what we have is really really good and like the right things just showed up for us. Worst case, it was like a creative experiment that like pushed like my own boundaries that like even if the piece itself wasn't good, the doing of the thing, you get better at something that then is useful um in other places.
What part of would you say like the creative endeavor that like was sharpened from that short film, that traveling short film
Production
for you?
coordination, I'd say like noticing, seeing, like because working with two camera people, it's like, and we're a team, right, in this place, but it's like I'm directing this,
Right.
and like it's trying to shape a story that like this isn't like although we filmed kind of like dual ways, like we filmed stuff for like a vlog too, just as like background stuff. We weren't filming a vlog, we were filming a short film, right? So it's like it has to be like going into it, it's like, okay, it has to be elevated cinematically. It has to be like elevated from a story perspective. It's like, what is the story? You're like trying to find the story as you're like just also trying to
Right.
like get great shots. Um, the short of that is just there's a lot of moving parts, like of coordination, logistics, create the creative side. So just mentally being able to kind of like wrangle and process all those different elements and bring it into some cohesive thing that actually like works and went relatively smoothly. I'd say that's where it probably like just like built the like that's the muscle that was strengthened the most.
Right. Do you think you could share any like for the feature, any inspiration that like you said the Canal Street like inspired that short film. You're like, this is like such a cool area. But is there anything you could say about like what the film is, or as much
Sure.
as you want to?
Yeah. I mean, it's about a young creative, like a dreamer that's from upstate New York and like comes to New York, not to move just to like visit, but to try to like prove himself that like he can move there and he can make it work. And he's a writer, aspiring writer, and it's just about like it's New York City, but it's life in ways where it's like things work out and then things don't work out and then something surprises you and then it's just that beautiful journey of like kind of the young up and comer dreamer meets reality, meets some like fun surprises, meets what are they actually really even going after?
And do you see like a reflection of yourself in that protagonist a little bit?
Elements, yeah, like it's
Elements,
like you write from what you
right?
know, right? It's certainly not biographical, but there's
Yeah,
certainly like there's no scene or moment or person that I don't know, right?
right,
Like I've it's like the writing process is super interesting, right? Because this is my first like
right.
feature that I've ever gone out in this way where I've actually followed through. Excuse me, where I followed through and like still a long way to go in the process, but it's like it's real. It's on paper right now in a way that it's like if I showed it to you, you could see the film, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's a lot of rewrites that need to happen, but it's like a lot of work's gotten happened to get to this place. But it's like you have for me the process was so more interesting at this point than what the story actually is. I think the process is interesting, right? So it's like hey, I started with this kernel of an idea of place, right? And then you start to be like, oh, I'm in the area and I start to notice for this particular
Yeah.
story, I start to notice things, right? And then you're like, oh, this element. And you're like, okay, what could the story be that's interesting? You're like, okay, person arrives to New York City. There's a bus stop literally there. Like that.
Yeah.
So then you start to like generate like these elements of like story shape and structure and then like you start to find characters and then you have like the raw bones of like okay what is this story arc loosely right and that takes time even to get to that place where where you see like the fuller story on paper even if it's like very, very, very thinly written, like outline level. And then once you actually start like diving in and like writing, to me it's more like an anthropologist trying to learn who the characters are and what they want to be and what they want to say and what they want to do. And then you have things that like you loosely like know in the third act even or the second act. You're like, okay, this point like needs to something needs to happen here in this way. And then you start making the more specific decisions you start to make, like then you're like, oh shoot, this works. And then like the back starts to talk to the front, and then you start to
Right.
shift things, and then things get more layers, and it's like all these different creative decisions for me are like they're not necessarily inspired by like one thing or one person, but they're inspired by like micro moments of something. And then you're like, "Ooh, this actually fits in here." And then it starts to like take a shape that becomes like cool and fun and like characters that feel familiar yet unique and a journey that feels known but like also is fun
Right.
to follow and like and I don't know how it will be received, but I think it has a chance.
Right.
But it's like for me through this process of like simple nugget of an idea um to like a rough outline to then a fleshed out script to then like rewriting that already a whole hell of a lot of times
Hmm.
and discovering more details through the process, I keep falling in love with the story, which I think is cool. I get excited. I'm like, oh yeah, like that's awesome. Right. And it's like I don't know, that's never happened to me in to this magnitude in this process, so it's like I mean, it's very much a New York City story. It's very much, a story of just, like, young person possibility, right? And I think, like, it's one of those stories that, like, the log line on and as I'm describing it, like, sounds less interesting than actually the nuance of,
Right.
if you read it, you'd be like, "Hmm, these stakes are maybe small." Be like, "No, those are the biggest stakes ever, because it's the slight emotional stuff, it's the fitting in, it's the belonging, it's the desire of, like, who do you want to be and why do you want to be it?" Right? And that's what's going at it. So it's like, yeah, does this like, if I tell you this plot, it feels flat? No, you have to watch, like, the actual, like,
Right.
emotional change, right? And that's what's always, like it's hard to describe why I think, like, the process of, like, how is, at this point, more interesting.
I think also it's fun though because there's a lot of films that have surprised me as a viewer when I see the log line, and then you watch and you get your expectations get thrown. Like perfect examples like Sicario. Um, it's a perfect example of my expectations just being completely flipped, and I think there's
And
a
I think that's an
power to that.
awesome mark to hit.
Right, that's a power because then you really take an audience on an experience of like, this is not what I signed up for, but this is like blowing my mind. This is, that's the experiential part of it that I love, right? To be able to take it on a journey and give a little seeds of what it's about. Like, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
premise, but we're gonna delve in.
Yeah, and of course, like as this becomes more reality, like the marketing side of me talking about it will be tightened up, right?
Right,
And it's like then you have more elements of like things to use to intrigue people.
right.
But at this point, if I tell someone out loud, I can see it in their eyes. It's never like, oh my God, like I want this story. But I'm like, just wait, trust me. Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
good, it's cool. It's like
yeah.
it's yeah.
My creative going back to like your creative process kind of being like the end ties to the beginning. Like it's sort of kind of when you write it, you're discovering yourself and how you think and it's not conventional in a sense. Same way with me. Like I will always like have to start with like the end and then like finish the beginning of how we're
Yeah.
gonna get there, or like the middle, or like
Yeah.
the just the begin. Like it's all over the place, and it's
And,
just like
and I don't like what does conventional mean, right? Like I
right,
think it's like for me it's like these little seeds become something, right? So I think like a future next film I write, maybe it starts with like I do just see this one scene and I'm like this scene is amazing and then I like build a story around it, right? Who knows, right? So I think that like it's not just a one size fits all, but like that was certainly a misconception I had prior to like going into this. It's like you think you just like you see movies and they're like, oh, they're just written. Someone just sits and like
yeah,
writes it, and it's like no, it's shaped over like all these like countless hours. And some people like I have a friend who she's writing her first like feature too, and she's someone who like writes dialogue and writes scenes, and then she's okay scrapping them. Where I work the total opposite way, where I'm like, even now, like the the scenes, the dialogue is like there's a lot of placeholder dialogue, and it's certain things are underwritten intentionally because it's like you know that like I need to get the
You'll get back.
structure in
Yeah, yeah.
place, and then I need to go listen specifically, and I still will like even once it's like the script is like tight in this version, then it's like working with actors, work like it'll be evolved even more so. So it's like really fleshing out like who is the character, why are they this certain way, what's their story, what do they want to achieve, what's their importance and significance to this story, right? So for me, like that type of design becomes more important than like the actual like writing the script weirdly, but, like, I would've thought the opposite going into it. I thought, like I was like, I thought someone saw the movie and just kinda, like, sat and wrote
Yeah.
it.
And then during your process of writing it, I'm sure you've had real world experiences that have, like, bled into the story
Dude,
while
of
writing
course,
it.
right? And it's both. It's like because this is about, like, a young creative, right? Like, it's flashbacks. You, like, start to flash back to your own life, or you read something and it flashes back in some way. And then also, yeah, like, you see a dog walk in a certain way, and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting," right? Like, it's, like, in the moment. It just can spark something that then is shaped and reformatted in a different way,
Right.
right? Like, I very much want to write, like, real world dialogue, right? And I think dialogue is incredibly hard because it's
Oh, yeah.
like but how has it become easier? You, like, have conversations with friends and actually then, like, take nuggets of what you're saying, and I, like with the one friend who's, like, very, very, like, witty in voice, I was like, "Dude, can I, like, record you? Like, just so I can get the cadence of what you're saying?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, of course, like, I don't even have to say it, just, like, do it." Because, like he's like, "You're not gonna take my actual words, you're
Yeah.
just gonna take, like, the essence of certain inspiration and, like, shape it into something new." Right? So I think that is actually a simplistic example of, like, the whole creative process. You're not taking the thing and, like, inserting it. You're taking, like, the essence of the thing, reformatting it, reshifting it, and then it looks like something totally original and new, but it was born out of, like, XYZ idea that sparked this thing.
I know, one of I had actually, funny enough, I had one of, my professors on the podcast, and he was saying how 'cause he wrote a novel, and he was saying how sometimes to, like, get dialogue and characters that are, like, feel grounded, he just takes people in his life
Mhm.
and then just, like, they just switch the name,
Yeah.
or and that's them.
Well, even, like, I'd say all the like, there's 1, like, main character in this film,
Right.
and then there's 3 others that are very important. There's way more characters, but there's 3 that are, like, very, very important, and yeah, they're all, like, not they're not one person, but they're elements from 6 different people,
Right.
right? That are, like that's how you make something real and truthful and interesting in my mind is, like, yeah, well, who in your life is quirky or interesting or makes you feel a certain way?
It's like hybrids of 2 people, like, make like a Frankenstein, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, that's like, "Wow, I've never seen that person,"
But
type
then that
thing.
becomes but then it becomes original, but also truthful, right? And going back to what we were saying at the very, very beginning of this conversation, where it was like the power of storytelling, the power of finding truth, and that's actually even if you're talking about interstellar or fantasy
Right.
films, it's like, no, the human truth is still real, right? The bond between father and son, the bond between friends, the conflict between strangers, like
Mhm.
that it comes from real human truth interactions, and I think that's the beauty of, like, stories and storytelling.
Going back to the truth, this sort of we keep coming back to, like, this sort of what is the truth and what is this journey to the truth. What would you say to, I guess, someone that's struggling to find, like, a truth? And it could be, like, a creator in any realm, but artistically, like, what is from your life experience and what you're doing right now, obviously, you're not a full finished product too, like, you're still working on certain things, but, like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, and, like, I said this at least once, I said this to you off camera too, like, I think any sort of advice like this is just perspective, right? Like,
Right,
I don't know the
right.
answers, like, but I think it's like pay attention more and try to see, right? Because it's like what you how you phrased the question was, like, again, looking for the answer or
Looking
focus on
for
the
the yeah.
answer. Whereas I think, like, the approach should actually be, like, focus on the process, right? And that, like, focus on the questions, focus on the thing that can unlock that whatever that is for you. So it's like, focusing on noticing and focusing on seeing what's actually there, right? It's like I'm not artistically talented drawer, right? But it's like it's even a fun exercise of like, yo, draw something, draw the thing right in front of you. Actually draw it. Like you have to notice in a way that is beyond what you're normally noticing. So it's like I use that as one example, but it's like if you push your limits of like noticing and seeing, then I think you put that's where you put your intention, then you start to see the truth around you, whatever that
So
means.
you think, like you're saying, you just have to be aware to it. Like it's already there. You're saying, and you just have to
For
tune
sure.
into it, right?
Yeah. And it's like the world is complex, right? So like okay, like you notice what's around you, what you have access to. That's all you can do.
Right.
And then like in future time in life, like you might shift your truth of what you understand and believe, which is natural, and you're still going to be limited, right? But it's like all you can do is just like learn to see what's around you in a more like honest way. And
Right.
it's like you know, like if you're at the gym and you give it your all, you know,
You just yeah, you got that
like
feeling
it's the
of
same with like seeing. Like, are you being honest or are you lying to yourself?
right.
You know.
Yeah, you'll be the one to know, like no one else,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and like that's you might be making like great work that you think is cool on social media or something, but like you'll just know this is not the direction or I need to pivot. You'll just kind of have that. Yeah, deep
Yeah.
down.
And like I mean there's total like fabrications of things that work, right? So like
Like what do you mean work? Like commercially, right? Or just
yeah,
online.
like someone could put on a persona that's not the truth
Right.
of themselves, and it could like be well received by the world. So I'm advocating like people do whatever they want to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying if you were stuck in a rut and you're like, okay, how do I start to move? I think like for me, focusing on the fundamentals is like a way to start getting progress, right?
Right.
Which that starts with like actually seeing and noticing more honestly.
Right. I love that. I love that because it's so often the movement of the will can like force you into a certain like type of person, like archetype of thinking or awareness of this is what I need to create now. This like you almost get an idea of like this is the right thing and like this because like other people say it is or like this is the direction. But I think it's so important to anyone listening just to be like you'll feel that in yourself. Like look internally, not externally, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I think like even building on that thought a little bit, if we're talking like tangible actions, right? It's like the process of like emphasizing like seeing and noticing, and also like movement of like change environments. And it doesn't have to be grand. It could be like, yo, you take a train for 20 minutes and you walk up a street that you didn't ever see. You're like, man, how many times have I walked the same street and then all of a sudden, like I walk the same street 50 times, and all of a sudden a new shop comes that's been there for 50 years. And I'm like, when did this place come?
Yeah.
Right. Like there's just things all around us in everyday that like you just mentally you just have not yet noticed. Right. And then so
Right.
it's like both of the situations that you're familiar with, and then also like going somewhere even close or taking a different path home, or that you just start to like train yourself to notice differently. And I think that kind of can like build energy.
Right. It's like you can really find inspiration in anything. Like people think there's like there's certain things you can only find. No, you can like I going back to like the 2 hour walks. I do those because I actually want to get my steps in too. So like I have goals like each day. Okay, I gotta go on a walk, get in my like 10,000 steps or something. I'll get inspiration from just looking at like different houses, like
Dude, a
in a
random
neighborhood.
conversation with the person at the checkout at the grocery store, if
Right.
you're open-minded to it, can spark something, right?
Right.
So it's like I think if you just like that's going back to creativity and my creativity. For me, it's like this process of like starting to take these inputs and then like do something with them. And then you start to pay attention more, and then you're working on something, and then like the littlest, randomest, most insignificant moment can mean something.
Right. And it sticks with you, and you use that.
And not all of them will, but then you'll be surprised in like the most random spot. You'll be like, oh my God, like this ordinary thing was like magical in
And
ways.
you can't predict it. You
Uh,
can't describe that. It just like
but you have to be open
happens.
to that, and you have to have the right like mindset that becomes possible, because I think most people are not having that type of like spark from like ordinary interactions.
Right.
I said this to I don't think said this to you, but I said this to the guys I was working with in Mexico City, because I left yesterday and I saw them, and I was like, it's always cool. Like, I obviously believe in myself, right, of where I'm going and what I'm working on, but it's so early. It is.
Right.
But I'm like, it's cool to get these my thoughts like just documented in this way for like future like time. If big success comes, it'll be cool to have my
Right.
creative thought process in this like long format.
And moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'm
Right.
like totally.
Right. So
So I appreciate it.
yeah, where can the audience find you on social media for the
Oh, we're
little?
back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll go back. Yeah, we can go back. So where could everyone find you on social media?
Me personally at its Mike O'Day. I think I'm that on all social accounts. And then Suelo Studios underscore is Instagram. We're starting to ship some meaningful content. So ah, I don't even like the word content. Meaningful films.
Stories.
Yeah, even though
Stories.
they're short films.
Nice.
It's funny to last thought. It's like it's funny to like make stuff for social where like you like that's where it's living first, but you literally have an intention to screen it, and
Right.
you're approaching it as like, hey, this is a film, and it's just like I don't know, it's cool, and we'll see what it turns into. But
I feel like a lot of people struggle with that though. Like you just that's the format. That just has to be like nowadays how you get people's attention, right?
yeah, but there's a different level of care when you think about it as like this
Right.
is a piece of cinema
Right. No,
versus
absolutely.
this is content,
Absolutely.
right? And that's even like I don't know. My bet is that ultimately the audience feels that and cares about that. Could be
Right.
wrong, but that's like the bet that I'm making of shipping in this way, where it's like I don't want to overly play the gimmicky hacks of like I could like yeah, this trend and this thing, and like
Right.
not that it's bad. I like that stuff, but it's like I just think that there's a opportunity, I guess, to live in a place that is like a little bit more like intentional of what's being shipped.
Like there's something bigger there, you know.
Yeah.